wish that I could just wish away my feelings, but I can't.
Sand hurts my feelings.
I don't like sand,
Hurts my
sand.
feelings.
Haunted by fake sand in my very soul. Sand. Are you suffering as much as I am?
Sand hurts my feelings.
Tormenting me. I'm in agony.
Sand hurts my feelings.
I don't like sand.
Hello, and welcome to The Sand Hurts My Feelings, a Star Wars podcast from a Swiftie point of view. I'm your host, Alex.
And I am your other host, Sarah.
And happy Star Wars Podcasting Day, everyone.
Yes, we're really excited. This is our first year participating with this podcast, as we are still a baby podcast. We're young, we're growing, but we're excited to join all of these other amazing podcasts and celebrating both podcasts and Star Wars and talking about Star Wars.
Yeah, I can't believe it. So a lot of people might be wondering, why February 7th? Why is this an important date? Why do we pick this date? Why don't we just do it on May the 4th? And the reason is this is the anniversary of Jedi Talk, the first Star Wars podcast ever to be created, known as far as back as we can, as we know, in 1999.
Wow, so like as old as The Phantom Menace.
Actually, a little older.
A little older, yeah, if they
'Cause it came
debuted
out
in
before.
February. Yeah. Well, that's really exciting. So there's been Star Wars podcasts in our galaxy for over 20 years.
Yes. And so that was kind of the guy, David from Now This Is Podcasting, organizes all of this, and he started this back in 2020. So this will be the 5th year we've been doing it, and he's been doing it. It'll be our first year on this podcast, and it's a lot of fun. And you find so many new podcasts. So if you are finding us for the very first time, we want to give you a little bit of a rundown of who we are.
Yes. So both Alex and I love Star Wars and Taylor Swift. So we decided, why not combine those loves together and talk about them at the same time? So the whole premise of our podcast is we want to pick one song from each of Taylor Swift's studio albums that we think best captures or represents a character in Star Wars. So our whole first season, which is all out wherever you get your podcasts, we picked a song from each Taylor Swift album that we thought best fit Princess Leia.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. And we had a lot of firsts in that, and we went to a bunch of different things. Our podcast is only 6 months old.
Yeah.
And we are already doing a lot of things. We met some amazing people in the podcast. We've got some amazing listeners. And so we are just having a blast.
Yeah, we're a bi-weekly podcast, so every other week is what we mean by bi-weekly, dropping episodes reflecting on characters and how they connect to Taylor Swift.
Yep.
So you are just in time here if you're joining us for the very first time on Star Wars Podcast Day, we're kicking off Season 2.
Season 2, and we are talking about the matriarch of the Skywalker family.
Yeah, Padmé Amidala.
Correct.
I am so excited for this season. I love me some Padme, and I am so excited to just feel all of the feels, both from Padme and from Taylor Swift. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get lots of feelings in this one. This one, I think there's gonna be a lot more. I think this is gonna be I think it's very fitting that we're doing our debut and like the beginning of Taylor and Padme, because I feel like this is going to be really relationship based. And
I think so too.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting. And there's a lot of dark and moody, and it's great.
Oh, yes. But let's keep you all in suspense for a little bit longer. I want to hear a little bit more about your experience, Alex, with Star Wars. Like your first watch through of A New Hope. So like your first experience with the first Star Wars movie, because that's what, I guess, taking a step back, we're going to be looking at the Taylor Swift debut album today with Padme. So like the debut Star Wars movie was A New Hope. Like what's your experience with that movie?
So my experience with that movie is different from a lot of people nowadays. I remember that movie coming out on VHS and not So I will argue that I'm not as old to have seen it in theaters, but I am pretty old. But I got to see my parents, and that's the thing that I'm very fascinated by, is that we always just had this box set of 3 Star Wars movies, and it was the VHS versions of the original films before the special editions came out.
Okay.
And it was very distinctly that, because every time I opened and I watched this, there would be every time I watched these movies, all 3 of them, they'd have it was hilarious, because they'd have a trailer for the box set that I bought, that I'm watching. And so it's like, get this all in Univision and Laserdisc, or get them all here one, and like as they were from the theater, one last time.
Oh yeah,
because then after, in 96, George released the special editions, and I never saw those in theaters, or at least not to my recollection at all. Again, I don't think my parents were super into Star Wars, so that's where I don't know if it was like my brother just got them to buy it, or anything like that, because he is a little bit older than I am. But I remember distinctly those instances where it would, and then again, showing the date and the weirdness of VHSs, we had a 3-part interview with George Lucas
at the end of the
beginning.
tape?
No, at the beginning.
Oh, beginning of the
so
tape.
that was the kind of thing of like, as a young kid, I had to fast forward through this George Lucas interview.
Oh, versus it being like a bonus feature on a Blu-ray.
Right. And like, I had to fast forward through it, but then it also wasn't the whole interview. It was like, all right, join us next time on Empire Strikes Back. And so then on each one, it's broken up, of like the interviews cut. And so it's interesting. But I remember watching these movies. I remember those distinct memories, and I remember loving them, and I just remember watching them all the time. I don't have, especially for A New Hope, I don't have a distinctive, like, this is when I first watched. So I don't know when that was.
Sure.
But I always gravitated towards these 3 movies. Like, I watched them all the time. And as is evidenced with my podcast here, but it was also an issue of like, Star Wars was the only thing that I liked as a kid. So like, and not liked, but like, only thing I kind of found interesting with that, like, I knew I liked. So it was hard. So like, I found like different books, like Artemis Fowl series and stuff like that. But like, I always knew I was going to like a Star Wars book. Now, there are Star Wars books that are terrible, but I was like, I'm going to read it. Like, I can sit down and I can read a Star Wars book, and I would always read that, and I could do that, versus like, I wouldn't know where to start. And I'm still like that to this day, of like, I don't know where to start. Like, I'm not opposed to reading other books other than Star Wars, but it's like, I know if I pick up a Star Wars book, I can read it and I'll be interested and I'll know what's happening, versus I need other people to recommend, hey, is this a good book series? Like, I don't really know how to go find good books. So that is my own little conundrum, but interesting tale with Star Wars of like, I just know like, okay, a Star Wars book, maybe I won't like it, of like how it's written or whatever, but I'm like, I can always pick it up and be like, I will be semi-interested in this at least. So, all right, Sarah, I know you were a little later, as we know, we've talked about this before, you were a little later coming to Star Wars, because again, I don't have that memory, but I was very young when it happened. You came into Star Wars a little later. What's your first experience with A New Hope?
Yeah, so I watched all of the Star Wars movies for the first time when I was in junior high school. So everyone, to date myself, if you haven't been listening to the podcast before, I sat down and watched them all after Revenge of the Sith had been released out to, VHS, DVD at that point, and I was still in junior high. And so I watched them all. I remember watching A New Hope, and I don't remember if I watched the special editions or like, because when you got the DVD, there was a special edition disc, and then there was what they said was the original.
Yes.
I don't remember which I watched first. I don't remember that part. But what I do remember is it being so much fun and so captivating. Like I was hooked pretty much from the get-go and just being amazed at the adventure and having so much fun with the adventure. And I remember some of the practical effects and the stuff with the models and stuff, like
Yep.
I knew wasn't CGI. Like I knew wasn't part of the special editions. Like I don't remember which one I watched, but there was like the parts I knew that weren't. Like they were from the original.
Well, I mean,
And-
the trench run is mostly like that. Like even with special editions, like the trench run is mostly like special effects, like not special effects, but it's mostly like stop motion and that kind of like the super special effect team.
Well, and like the whole
And yeah.
opening sequence with the Tontiv 4 and the Star Destroyer and all of those pieces, I was just like, this is incredible. And just, I remember having so much fun and loving the adventure and just wanting more. Yeah. And so then I kept watching.
You kept watching because there was more.
There was more.
Nice.
So yeah, that was good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I just also really remember, it's not my first memory with A New Hope, but it's one that I have really distinctly. I don't remember a ton from my 11th grade English class, but I remember we did kind of a unit on Star Wars because we were learning about the hero's journey. And so she had us map out the hero's journey. Our teacher had us map out the hero's journey, like according to Luke and like how things happen in A New Hope. And it's just like, oh, this makes so much sense. It makes so much sense.
Yep.
But then it's like, you know, being a Star Wars fan and learning even more about like, yeah, George used Joseph Campbell's playbook in helping design this myth.
And he wanted it to be a modern fairy tale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I
Modern
remember
myth.
I remember that unit. So I don't remember my vocab. I don't remember splicing sentences or the classic literature we read. I remember Our New Hope, Belly of the Whale, Hero's Quest, Hero's Journey unit.
There you go. That means it's a good teacher.
Yeah, she was good.
All right. It is now time for us to get all moody because I will tell you mine's moody. So you want to dive in?
Yeah, I can go first. So the song that I picked for Padmé Amidala from Taylor Swift's debut album, self-titled debut album, is Perfectly Good Heart. It's a very simple song, but to me, this is Revenge of the Sith after they have their confrontation on Mustafar. Anakin breaks her heart. She literally dies of a broken heart.
Yep.
And so the main chorus is what gets repeated the most. And that's, why would you want to break a perfectly good heart? Why would you want to take our love and tear it all apart now? Why would you want to make the very first scar? Why would you want to break a perfectly good heart? And I mean, that's what she's pleading with him. She's like, come with me. Let's run away. Let's, this is enough. And he's in his rage and says no. There's the one verse that to me kind of also gives a nod to the Clone Wars because of some of the things that Anakin and some of the arcs with Anakin and Padme in Clone Wars, she should have seen this coming. And so that verse in Perfectly Good Heart by Taylor Swift is, maybe I should have seen the signs, should have read the writing on the wall, and realized by the distance in your eyes that I would be the one to fall. No matter what you say, I still can't believe that you would walk away. It don't make sense to me.
Nice.
So yeah, like in a nutshell, she's blindsided and so distraught that Anakin did this, but like looking back, I mean, had Padme had time to reflect, I mean, she dies shortly thereafter, but had Padme had time to reflect, there were signs. There were signs all throughout the Clone Wars.
She was absolutely love blind.
Yeah.
Like love has, like they make that comment of like, so love has blinded you. And I'm like, yeah, it has.
It has.
Like she's making the joke of, oh, love has blinded you, Anakin. But it's really like love has blinded her to all of the issues that are in Anakin.
Yeah, very, very much so. So that is my sad but simple pick.
Very, very good pick. For half a second, I thought we matched, but nope, we did not. We did not. No,
What did you pick?
But we do match on theme
Okay,
because
okay.
I picked a Anakin Padme Mustafar song.
Oh,
And so my song is Should Have Said No.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's singing should have said no to Anakin, and Anakin should have said no to the dark side.
That's so perfect. I love that.
Yeah. So mine's a little more detailed. I go in because I went through the whole song. I've got a bunch of it. So we started off with yesterday. I found out about you. Even now, just looking at you feels wrong.
Mm.
And she's like, "Yep, you're going down a path." It was just yesterday that Obi-Wan told her about Anakin turning to the dark side and killing younglings. She went to him to explain, but sees he has changed and is going down a path she cannot follow.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes to, you say that you'd take it all back. Given one chance, it was a moment of weakness, and you said yes.
Oh my gosh.
And so Anakin would have taken back his actions against Padme when the dark side took hold of him and he choked her. So this is when he choked her. But again, at the end, but Palpatine uses this to make Vader believe he killed her, and he lives with that hatred of himself.
Mm.
And then we go into the song of, you should have said no. You should have gone home. You should have thought twice before you let it all go. And that's, he should have stayed at the temple. He should not have gone to the temple, from the temple, and gone to the chancellor's office and turned, basically, to save Padme. And then you should have known that word about what you did with her, get back to me, and I should have been there in the back of your mind. And so this is a big one that I wanted to push for, and a big reason why I picked this for Padme is because Padme cannot believe that Anakin did any of this in thinking that it was for her.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I turned to the dark side. I did all of this for you. And she could never be with somebody who did the things that Anakin has been doing while she's still loving him. And so she began seeing the change in him earlier when she talked about being on the wrong side of the war. His immediate response was that she was a separatist. And Anakin had the idea of Padme in his mind, but not the actual person when he turned to the dark side.
Right. He had his obsession, possessiveness of Padme.
If I can't lose her, not I'm doing things that she would never accept.
Right.
And never be with me because of that. And then the last lyrics I have is, but do you honestly expect me to believe we could ever be the same? You say that the past is the past. You need one chance. It was a moment of weakness. And you said yes. And so this is Anakin trying to defend himself on Mustafar. And Padme saying, like, I can't, like, you're going down a path I can't follow. And he just expects her to move on and say, like, yep, we're going to keep going. I did this all for you. We're all great. Keep moving. And she can't believe, like, she's, again, I think, just thunderstruck and of the magnitude of the things that he's done. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting a little of my own spin on it, but I don't believe that Padme could be with Anakin after finding out what he did. Like, I really struggle, and you all know this. If you're longtime listeners, if you're not a longtime listener, you know I have lots of issues with George's writing. I don't like that she dies in the end. I don't like that she's like, oh, there's still good in him. Because to me, that completely kneecaps Padme's character. Because Padme has been trying this whole, even if it's terribly written and terribly shown and all on the cutting room floor, like she's been fighting this fascist dictatorship. And basically with that line and that kind of stuff, it's basically trying to tell us that, like, oh, there's still good in him. I would have still loved him. I still love him. And I still want to be with him. Like, you have to save him when he's done all this horrific things and so many. And so I always have the dream booking. And again, we're randomly tangenting here, but I'm like, to me, it was perfectly set up where Padme actually was going to fight the Empire. And then she died during sometime between New Hope and Revenge of the Sith.
Sure. in some
Because and in some way, and like, to me, you don't even necessarily have to do a big thing. But that's the thing, is I think George had to be like, she's got to die, and we got to see her die. And I'm like, she has to die, yes, but she doesn't have to die in this moment, because it doesn't. Because again, Return of the Jedi, Leia talks about remembering her mother,
Mhm.
and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense anymore. Like, there's no way she remembers her mother as a baby. Like, it's just not
As
possible.
a just birth
Like, as a
baby.
just birth baby. But like, if, for instance, and that's where I be like, if, for instance, Padme had been like, yep, I've got to split up, I'm gonna fight this, and so Anakin, and you could still have that, like, I'm gonna have the Organas adopt Leia, I'm gonna have Luke go to Tatooine, and I'm gonna, like, maybe she's able to visit occasionally with Leia.
But I could.
And
Sorry, I'm
and you're
interrupting
interrupting a
your vision.
and visits, and then eventually, like, on a mission or something, like, dies.
Mhm.
That's my dream and what should have happened, because her character is just so undercut. And I do talk about this, everybody, so be prepared. I have songs that break the fourth wall here coming this season. So I'm telling you that now.
I
So
like you going meta with.
I'm
Padme.
going meta. I'm going meta with Padme, because there is not a lot to talk about other than Padme and Anakin, unfortunately, in the movies. Because again, we're focusing only on the movies. And
No, we're not.
No, we're not. No, you're right. But I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of the Clone Wars, so that's where I struggle to watch those and connect things with there. And so,
Mhm.
but yeah, so there's a lot of other things you could do, but there are points where I go meta. And
Oh, I love that.
so, yeah, we break
I'm-
the fourth wall and we talk to George.
I'm definitely intrigued, and I think Taylor has some great songs that would do that. And so I'm very. Which ones you pick, if not all of them?
Yes.
So that was a great pick. I think yours was better than mine. I know we're not like in a competition mode.
You need to stop saying that, because you say that almost like a lot of like, yours is better. It is what it is. It's what came to your mind.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're going to find you should have said no for somebody better. Like, that's for
sure.
a different person. Like, that's what you keep saying that. Like, you can say you like mine a lot.
I
That's
do really
it.
like
There we
yours.
go. That's all you
And
need to say.
I really, really, I think this was one of the first times where we've picked the same, basically like the same moment the same
Yes.
scene for the same album, but they're different songs.
Different songs, same moment, but different songs.
Yeah.
Yes.
That to me is
That's
super
really
cool.
Yeah.
It speaks both to the emotions of Padme and the emotions of Taylor.
Correct. And I also think of like the significant emotions of Padme. I would say that I would relate it back to like, Mustafar is a huge moment in her life.
It's
and
like the turning point.
It is the moment of her life, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think I have multiple songs about Mustafar, because
Yeah.
it's just
But it's such a
it's so
powerful
powerful
moment.
and it builds the whole saga, but it's also just so important to her.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that's very exciting. So we hope you continue to join us for season 2. Our next episode, we will be looking at Padmé Amidala and Fearless, Taylor's version.
Yes. And this will be releasing on our more normal schedule, the third Tuesday of the month. We release the first and third Tuesdays every month. So, and we like our short form. It's only about half an hour. So quick little drive to work. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you would like to contact us or let us know, we've had people in season 1, let us know what their picks are, what they thought about our picks, all those kinds of things. We have had an amazing back and forth with some people on just in email. So our email is thesandhurtsmyfeelingspod@gmail.com. You can also reach us through any other form of social media. We are The Sand Hurts My Feelings Pod at Instagram and Threads. And we have The Sand Hurts My Feelings podcast Facebook. we are not going to be necessarily as active on those places of posting things, but we will still be checking inboxes and comments and stuff like that. But we will also, I will be more active on our Blue Sky, which is our new Blue Sky account, which is Sandy Feelings at Blue Sky. So I pretty like that. And then we also have a Redbubble.
Yeah, a Redbubble store.
Which is mostly Star Wars and Taylor Swift adjacent stuff. This is not necessarily connecting them yet, but Sarah's done some amazing work with word clouds of all of the Taylor Swift albums and most of the Star Wars films.
Yeah. It takes a while to upload those. But yeah, so all of the lyrics in each Taylor Swift album and making word art clouds from that. And then the different Star Wars movies, all of the lines, and then characters, each of their lines. So I was going to say, have patience if there's not much up there. It takes a while to upload everything onto Redbubble, but I've had fun with that, so you can check out the art.
Awesome. And so please come back. Happy Star Wars Podcasting Day, but please come back and watch and listen to the rest of Season 2. We are going to have so much fun talking about Padme.
Yes.
All right. May the Force be with you.
Forever and always.
May the Force be with you.
Forever and always.